everyone, my name is Allie and welcome to my channel. It is finally that time of the year and we are going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. I'm so excited to be doing this video. I cannot believe that it's already the middle of the year. I feel like 2023 has just zoomed right on by and I don't know where the time has gone. I don't know how we're even in the middle of June right now. And it's wild to me that I've already read 38 books this year. Like, I have not really tried to put too much pressure on myself to read this year the way that I did last year. Last year was like my gotta get to 100 books read in a year, and I did, and I'm so proud of myself. But this year I was like, you know what, just take it easy. You don't have to read like 10 plus books every single month. You're fine. That did, however, lead me into getting into a few slumps along the way, but I think I'm doing pretty well so far. So yeah, I am proud of myself. I am glad that I have been reading a lot, even if everything that I've been reading hasn't been like a 5-star favorite book. I still have read quite a few books that I absolutely love. And I'm so excited to talk about the books that I've read this year. It's just wild to me. Like, I'm still reeling from this. I did want to talk a little bit about some of the stats from this half of the year really quickly. Just gonna open up Storygraph really quick. So like I said, I've read 38 books in 2023 so far, which puts me at 15 books ahead of schedule, and I have a reading goal of 50 books, so I think we'll smash that pretty quickly. My two most read authors of this year so far are Stephanie Garber and Lexi Ryan, both with 2 books. I've really been trying to, if I start a series, especially if there's like other books in the series that are already out, if I start a series, I want to continue it like immediately after. I'm doing that mainly because when I typically start a new series, I will just start the first book and then never get to the other books. So I'm really trying to like get myself to complete series this year. And then my average rating out of those 38 books is 3.61, which is pretty much, I wouldn't say it's in the middle. It's a bit higher than the middle, obviously, but that's a lot lower than it typically is. Like I said, this year has just not been the year for like my favorite books ever. This is the year for like reading books that I own and reading books that I'm excited about and then becoming disappointed by them. So you can probably see where I have gotten into slumps and why. It's pretty obvious. Now moving on from those quick little stats, I didn't want to go through every single stat because we are definitely going to be saving that for the end of the year, but I just wanted to kind of quickly do a little overview. So now we're going to get into the actual questions for the tag, and the first question is best book you've read so far in 2023. And for that question, I'm definitely 100% going to go with Happy Place by Emily Henry. This was literally my most anticipated book of this year. And I love Emily Henry's books so much. They always get a 5-star for me, at least when it comes to her adult romance. And this book was no exception. It was so, so good. It's definitely my second favorite Emily Henry book, right after Beach Read. This book just really resonated with me on a different level than some of her other books. And I could see myself in a lot of different characters in this book. And I also loved the friendships, the dynamics. I loved the setting. Ever since I've read Happy Place, I have been dying to go to like a beach or like a beach house and just like hang out and have fun and drink and be in that sort of environment. I unfortunately don't have like a friend group to do that with, but yeah, I'm really feeling those vibes. I really want to be in the sun and near the water, hanging out. And I mean, I mention this every time I mention this book, but I made literally the best playlist for this book, and I will link it down below as always. So definitely check it out if you have read Happy Place or you want to read Happy Place. It's going to get you in the perfect Emily Henry Happy Place mood. The second question is best sequel you've read so far in 2022, and that is definitely going to go to The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. Like I said earlier in the video, when I begin a series this year, I want to continue that series as quickly as possible. So I was really glad when I found out that my library had the audiobook for the second book in this series, which is The Ballad of Never After. and it blew me away. It was so amazing. From the very beginning of that book, things were happening and things just continued to happen. Like, there was never a lull in this plot or in the narrative. It was all just go, 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 so fast paced. I was being bombarded with things happening in this book, and it just made for such a fun reading experience, and I absolutely loved it. I really couldn't have asked for anything better in a sequel to Once Upon a Broken Heart, because that book was so good. So the sequel really needed to like bring its A game and be amazing, and The Ballad of Never After really did it for me. It was so good. I can't really talk about what it's about specifically, but if you're a fan of Stephanie Garber, this series is just top notch. It's so good. The next question is new release you haven't read yet but want to, and that really could be just about any book on my new release list. But for me, I decided to go with Painted Devils by Margaret Owen, and that one just recently came out, I think a couple of weeks ago, and my library finally got the audiobook for it because I don't own it physically, unfortunately. And I'm so excited to read the sequel. It is gonna be so amazing. I've heard so many good things about it, and I loved the first book so much last year. It was so good, and I just have really high hopes for the sequel. It was one of my like most anticipated reads of 2023, I believe. And I don't know, I've just been waiting for this book ever since I finished the first one. I made sure to already have it borrowed on Libby, so I don't have to wait or anything. I was notified immediately when they put it onto like the library. And yeah, I'm really excited to read it. I think it's gonna be so good. The next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And for that, I put two different books for two different reasons. The first one is The Shadow Sister by Lily Mead, which actually I think comes out in 2 more weeks. So it's not technically the second half of the year. I mean, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. But I am super excited about that book, and I did talk about it in the beginning of the year. It is sort of a YA thriller-esque kind of novel, and I think I'm really going to like it. And I love following Lily on Twitter. She is a big Swiftie, and I know I'm going to love this book so much. And then the second book I want to mention is Heavenly Tyrant by Ziran J. Zhao, and unfortunately this book was supposed to be coming out in 2023, but due to so many circumstances that the author has talked about, especially regarding publishing and like all of that kind of stuff, it did get pushed back to 2024. So I just wanted to mention that because I did talk about it in my most anticipated release video, and it's not coming out in 2023 anymore, so we have to wait for 2024. I still am really excited about it. I will probably at that point have to reread the first book, but I don't think that'll be that much of a problem because I did really enjoy the first book, which was Iron Widow, and I did give that 5 out of 5 stars, so I think it'll be fine rereading that one in order to finally get to Heavenly Tyrant. The next question is biggest disappointment. And this one, if you have been following me for the past year, if you've been watching my videos, keeping up with my Goodreads, you will know what I'm going to talk about right now. And that is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshni Chokshi. I read this literally before it came out. I got an audiobook arc from Libro FM. I'm part of their like influencer program, which you can sign up for, I believe, if you have over 1,000 followers on one of your platforms or something like that. But definitely check it out if you are a content creator, if you do like Bookstagram or BookTok or BookTube, check it out because it is such a good program and I get so many of my audiobooks from them. I was really excited to have this one on, I think, February's list, and I was pumped. I was excited, I was ready, I like immediately started it, and this book put me into one of the worst slumps ever. I gave it 1 star. I was so disappointed because I was like convinced that this was gonna be one of my new favorite books, like it would be up there with Addie LaRue, and I was just so ready to love it. I went into it with every good expectation. I went into it so open to love it, and that's why it really disappointed me when I ended up giving it 1 star. I was like, how did this happen? How did it get here? This book was just not for me personally. There were so many different things that kind of went wrong with this book, unfortunately, at least in my opinion. I know that A lot of people who have read it have really enjoyed it, but it just did not resonate with me. Like I said, some major issues. I think one of the biggest issues though was the dual perspective. There was basically chapters of like present day with the husband, who is such like a nothing character, is so irrelevant to everything, but we'd have to get through these chapters of him and he's so boring. He's not a character. He has no actual like characteristics or traits or anything like that. He really is just a vessel for the reader to see things in this present day. And like he really is just a ploy to set up the plot twist. And he's so boring, he doesn't matter. I hate his guts. And then you have the perspective of one of the main characters when they were teenagers. Those are the two perspectives, and neither of them were very good. They just seemed completely useless to have it be two perspectives. And then the second issue I had was the fact that it was labeled as an adult novel, and this issue kind of has like some like sub issues for me because it's not just the fact that it was labeled adult, it's the fact that like when a book is labeled as adult, I have some expectations with that. I expect for the book to at least be focusing on like adult issues or adult characters, which this book did neither of those things. And like I guess the argument could be that like, oh well, there's a husband character, but he's so irrelevant, like he doesn't matter, like who cares? There are husbands in YA novels too. Like what does this, why does this need the distinction of adult when it's written in the style of YA? The characters are all YA aged. The issues that are being tackled are YA issues. Like there are two reasons that I can come up with as to why this might have been labeled as adult. The first one is that there has been a huge influx of YA authors transferring over to adult novels, and that's really hot right now. You have authors like Leigh Bardugo, Holly Black, etc. like transferring over to adult books. Even like Zoraida Cordova, even though she has been writing adult romance, but like under her name Zoraida Cordova, she's only been writing YA up until last year. So you have like those authors doing that, and I think that this just seemed like a good opportunity for Roshni Chokshi to transition into adult literature. And the second reason that I could come up with is the fact that adult hardcovers are priced so much more expensive compared to a YA hardcover. YA hardcovers are around 20 bucks. Adult hardcovers are over $30, sometimes like $35. So that's a huge price jump in comparison. And I think that that might be two of the reasons why, because otherwise like this book could have easily been YA, could have easily been promoted as YA. There's really nothing in that book. There's no content that would have needed to be changed. So it leaves me with a lot of questions as to why it was written as adult. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then my third issue with this book is that it was very high concept but very low execution. The execution just did not match what Roshni Chokshi was attempting to say with the book. And I also think it was a little too short, and the dual perspectives did not help it at all. And I also think that the writing, while it attempted to be beautiful, flowery language, it just didn't really communicate its point very well. I kind of felt like the characters and the plot kind of got lost in all of these little words that were picked out of a thesaurus. It didn't work for me. And at the end of the day, I think that this author wanted the readers to pull more of their weight than they should have to. And I mean, I can't create this story for you. You have to create it for me. That's kind of the relationship that's going on here between author and reader. And it's kind of that issue of like showing versus telling. She kept telling us that these characters were magical. She kept telling us that the one girl was like so ethereal and popular and like enigmatic, but I never got it. Like she never showed it to me. I never could believe it. And that's kind of a problem. That's kind of what I mean by she wanted the readers to be doing more than they should have to. I shouldn't be doing the legwork of believing that this character is something that you can't even convince me of. So yeah, that is my little rant. about this book. If you did like it, that's totally fine. I mean, I am not the end-all be-all of literary critique. This is just all my opinion. And it's very, very subjective, so you don't have to listen to me. It's totally fine. The next question is biggest surprise of 2023. And for that one I put really good actually by Monica Heisey, or Heisey, I can't remember how to pronounce her last name. But I read this book last month and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I was actually genuinely pretty surprised by how much I enjoyed it. I really didn't think I was gonna like this book as much as I did, especially when I ended up seeing the average rating on Goodreads. It's really low. It's like a 3.1 or 3.2 or something like that. And so when I saw that, I was a little nervous and scared about whether I was gonna like it or not, but it did really resonate with me. I kind of felt like that really messy, late 20s, my whole life is falling apart around me, and I could relate to that, honestly. Even though I've never been through a divorce, I've never been through that kind of relationship breakup, I still felt for this character and I could still empathize with her, and I was like, we see each other. We see each other. It's one of those type of books that I don't think will resonate with everybody, but for those who get it, will get it. The next question is favorite new author, debut, or new to you. And for this one I had a lot of trouble kind of coming up with an answer for this, because I feel like a lot of the newer authors that I read this year, I either didn't like their book, or I don't feel like I liked their book enough for me to confidently say like, oh, I know I'm gonna love the rest of their work. So I didn't really know where to go with this one, but I did finish reading yesterday Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams, and I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I don't want to fully review that book because I haven't done my wrap-up yet, because it's not the end of June, but I do want to say that I really enjoyed Sarah Adams' writing style. I thought it was really fun. It was really quirky, but in a really cute and charming way. I felt like it was really engaging and very fast-paced, and it was just very comedic and silly, and like this is the type of book that I've been looking for, like an actual true honest-to-God rom-com. Because like this book was genuinely funny. Like the characters were actually funny. Like they weren't like telling like haha knock knock jokes or whatever, but like they had like these little banter moments, and they had these little quips, and they were very smart and witty and funny, and I liked it. I actually laughed while I was reading this book and had to pause it and be like, oh my god, that's so funny, why would you say that? But in like the best way possible, why would you say that? I think that I definitely want to get to her other books. I know that this is the second book in the series. They're kind of like interconnected standalones almost, and so I kind of want to read When in Rome. I'm not sure if I'm going to love it as much, but I do want to give this author a fighting chance, and I really enjoyed this book, so I think I will at least like the rest of her books in terms of writing style. The next question is another really tough question, and that is newest fictional crush. This question gets harder and harder to answer every year. Not because I'm not reading YA books anymore or whatever, like I'm getting older, but I just feel like the books that I read now, I don't really like get crushes on these characters. I'm sure that last year I said something about like Colin or some sort of Bridgerton boy. I'm sure that's what I said. I can't remember. But I did decide on 2 characters, and it is Eve and Jacob from Act Your Age Eve Brown, because I just like I said earlier, imprinted myself on this book. But this year, looking through the books that I have read so far, I have read a lot of romance, but I also have read so many books that I didn't like that it's hard for me to be like, oh, I have a crush on this character from a book that I hated, because I like it's not true. So for this one, I decided to go with Henry Strauss from The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And that's because I am technically rereading this book this year. So, and through this reread, I have realized even more how much I love Henry. I loved him from the moment that I read the first book. Like, I was hooked the second that I saw him on page. I was like, yes. he's mine. He's mine because we're the same. We're very similar people. I really relate to Henry on like a deep visceral level, even more so than I relate to Addie, because I do relate to Addie a little bit and I love her. She's the best. But I mean, I really deeply relate to Henry. He is just, he's me. He's me. And so rereading this book, I am finding even more passages and like kind of like really zeroing in on Henry as a character. And it's really just very illuminating to me. I love Henry. He is my book boyfriend forever and ever. I love him. I think he's the best and I think he's so underrated. I think people tend to get really fixated on Luke, which I understand. I love him. I think he's a really great character, but he's not for me, if that makes any sense. Like, he's not for me. I couldn't see myself falling in love with Luke. I mean, maybe, I don't know, but like I could see myself really falling in love with Henry if I was in Addie's position. So yeah, we're gonna go with Henry. I love him. He's the best. The next question is newest favorite character, and for this one I had to go with Jax from Once Upon a Broken Heart. He is so fun to read from. He's so charming. He's like witty. I don't know, there's something about him. I can't even like express how much I like him as a character. He's so fun to read. I have to say that, like, he really is. The way that Stephanie Garber writes him, I'm just like hooked. I want to read so much more from him. I could read 50 books with him as a main character because he's just that good. And I've read I've read the whole Caraval series, so I've read like the other male characters in her books and I like them too. And I did like Jax, but I feel like we didn't get like enough of him for me to like fully fall in love with him as a character. But in this series, the Once Upon a Broken Heart and then like the Ballad of Never After, I am just so obsessed. I believe it and I love him. And it's like one moment he's very charming and then the next moment I really feel for him. So yeah, I have to go with Jax. He's a great character. The next question is a book that made you cry, and I ended up choosing 3 different books for this question because I can't choose just one. There's no way. So I decided to go with Happy Place by Emily Henry because that book really made me cry, and there are still songs from that playlist I made that when I listen to them on their own, it makes me choke up a little bit. Like Good Legs by Jensen McRae, it makes me so emotional. It's so stupid and like silly, but it really, like, I don't know, like I just listen to that playlist and it gets me choked up. And then the second book I put down was I Must Belong Somewhere by Dawn Lanuza. This is a poetry collection and it really resonated with me. I could really relate to it. It was so good, and it's definitely one of those books that I would love to reread because it was just fantastic and it really just, it saw me as a person. And then the third book I wanted to mention was Adelaide by Genevieve Wheeler, and I love that book. It's so good. It's another one of those books that I got from the Libro FM affiliate program, influencer affiliate, whatever. So I got to listen to it around the time when it came out, and I loved it so much. It was so good. And this is like a main character that is so soft and so sweet. I want to protect her from the entire world. And yeah, it worked for me. It did. It was so good. It was so beautiful. And then the next question is book that made you happy, and for that one I chose Hotel Magnifique by Emily J. Taylor. And this is one that I have been wanting to read since last year, but it was really popular and I could not get it from my library. I had to wait for literal months in order to get it, and I finally got to listen to it and it blew me away. It was so much fun, so whimsical, so magical, and it just really worked for me. It's one of those books that I'm like, I could read 5 other books in the series and I still wouldn't be fully satisfied. I would want more and more and more, and it just made me so happy reading it. Like, there's never a moment in that book where I was like, oh, this is boring, or like, oh, I don't really like this, oh, this is way too sad, or whatever. Like, there were some sad moments, but like ultimately this book just made me so happy as a reader. It was everything I could have asked for, and the writing was beautiful. And yeah, I mean, I love whimsical fantasy, what can I say? Okay, so the next question is most beautiful book you've bought so far this year, and I decided to go with 3 different books. So the first one is one that I bought earlier this year, Did I buy it this year? Yes, I did. I want to make sure I did. I think I bought this one in February, and that is A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. And I love this cover so much. It's so gorgeous. I love these covers that have like an actual like painting, and it's like put in such a different context to what the painting actually is. And oh, I love just like the composition of this cover and her squeezing the heart right here. It's so good. It looks amazing. The only thing I don't love are these little like step back flap things. I hate those, but other than that, I think this is a beautiful, beautiful cover. The next book that I bought that I absolutely love the cover of is Black Swans by Eve Babbitt. And this one actually matches my nails today. I have green nails, and I love the pink and the green together. This just looks like such a beautiful color combo, and it's really bringing me back to like the mid 2000s. You know, you'd wear those shorts that were pink and green. That's what this reminds me of, but like better, more updated, more beautiful. So yeah, I love this cover. And the last cover that I want to talk about is The Woman Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir, which also I'm matching this one too, and it's also pink and green, as you can see. So beautiful. I love the lips with like the little cigarette and the color scheme. I love the hot pink, and it's so cute. It's so pretty, and I love it. I love the text. I love the composition as well. I think it's really cool. It's really different. It gives me sort of like 2012 to 2014-ish era of like Urban Outfitters and Tumblr and stuff like that. It's just such a throwback. So I really like it. I think it's so cute. Okay, so those are the really beautiful covers. And the very last question of this tag is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So I'm not going to spend like a huge amount of time on this. I don't want to go through what every book is about, but we will talk about a couple of books. I picked out 6 different books. I was going to do 5, but then there were a couple that I just could not talk about. So the first one is More Than Words by Jill Santopolo, and I chose this one because I am currently reading The Light We Lost, and oh my god, that book is freaking phenomenal. It's so good, and I can't believe that I was like listening to people who did not like the book and were giving it kind of a negative review, and I kept putting it off. I kept like being like, oh, I don't really want to read it, oh, like maybe I'm not gonna like it so much, you know, whatever. This is my point. Do not always listen to negative reviews. Like, it's fine if somebody has a negative review, like I said with like earlier with the last Tale of the Flower Bride. Just because I didn't like that book doesn't mean that you might not like that book. You might love that book. Just like The Light We Lost. Some people really didn't like that book. I personally love it, and it's really resonating with me. The next one I really want to read is one that I have been thinking about more and more lately, and that is Happy Hour by Marla Granados. And this one is set in New York, set during the summer, I believe. And I am so ready to read this. I think it's going to be so much fun, and it's gonna be a vibe for this year. It really is. The next book is one that I have talked about in one of my TBR videos for like TBR of the summer or whatever I did, and that is Queenie by Candace Carty-Williams. And this is a book that I very clearly need to read so bad, because I feel like I'm going to really relate to this book. I think it's going to resonate with me. I think it's going to be one of my new favorites, possibly. I don't know. We'll see. I'm really excited. The last 2 books are ones that I've actually started, but I do need to finish them. And that is Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson. And I'm currently, let's see, I'm currently 59 pages into it, and I started this last year, I believe, and I never ended up finishing it. So I don't know if I need to restart it. We'll see how I feel about wherever I left off. But I do remember really enjoying this book when I started it, and then I just never finished it. That's really bad. I really need to stop like setting books down when I'm in the middle of them. I just need to finish them. But yeah, I do remember really liking it, so I don't know why I put it down. And then the last book that I really need to get to, that I really need to finish, is one that I started was it last summer or 2 summers ago? I think it might have been 2 summers ago. And that is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. And I started this, I believe, in the summer of 2021. And I kind of had to stop. And I got to page 110. But I had to stop because I was getting a little like freaked out by this book. It was really unsettling and really getting to me in like a bad way. And so I had to put it down because I was like, I can't keep reading this because it's just grossing me out in such a visceral level. And so I did put it down for a while. I mean, like over a year. But I think I'm ready to pick it back up. I think that I can get through this book this time. The writing is absolutely phenomenal. Like, this is a really, really well-written book. But dang, the content of this book is just horrifying. It's so bad, but it's so good. So, I'm excited to continue with this book. I am a little less than halfway through, I believe. Yeah, a little bit less. I believe that this book is over 300 pages though. Oh no. I think the pages are just really, really thick. This book I think is only about 300 and so pages. So I am close to getting halfway through, but not quite. So I'm excited to continue with this. I am intrigued to see what I will feel by the end of this book. But yeah, I do need to finish this by the end of the summer. Okay, so that was the entirety of the mid-year book freakout tag. I'm so glad that I did not skip any of the questions this year because last year I missed one of the questions and I forgot to answer it. So I'm glad that I held myself accountable this year. So in the comments down below, either let me know some of the books that you've loved so far this year, if you've read any books that you absolutely enjoyed. If you don't want to do that, you can totally just leave a comment down below of let's pick an emoji. We'll do the turtle emoji. Leave down below a turtle emoji if you don't want to leave one of your favorite books so far this year. Either one of those is fine. I love getting to hear from you guys, and I love getting to hear about the books that you're currently reading. But yeah, feel free to leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of the video. And if you enjoyed it, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, Storygraph, TikTok. All the links are me down below, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye! Ooh, I thought it'd be me and